I did a video on, I think Saturday, and I labeled it Calm Before the Storm China Bubble. And I wanted to continue on the subject since the mainstream media is not talking about it. And I could just show you an example of what's going on in the mainstream media. Alright, now I'm just going to type in on Google News. Let's just type in bull market, and then I could get back to what I'm talking about China. Okay, now I want you to look at how many articles there are regarding bull market and how relevant they are to today. As in, what's today's date? Let me look at it right now. March 10th. So let's look at all the articles listed within the last 10 hours. So, I mean, like, or one day. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there's already 9 within the first query. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, I could go on and on and on. So there are many articles about the bull market that we've had. Now let me just type in China subprime. No one's talking about this. Okay, how many articles now can we see within the last, I don't know, one day? Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. Let's do this again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's talk about China crashing, which I agree with. It's in the midst of it. 7. This is the second page, by the way. 8, 9. Okay, what's my point here? My point is that this story is not getting that much coverage. Right now, what's getting a lot of coverage is what's going on in the bull market that we have in the stock market. Not to say that the bull market has ended the stock market. At most, I feel that this market will continue to go up until the end of 2015. That's what even Martin Armstrong, former professor at Princeton University, has been talking about. Now let's go to Google Trends and see a few other statistics about this. Let's just type in stocks in general. So you still see people having interest in typing about stocks, right? The overall markets. You could type in bull market as well to see a comparison. Not really. Whatever. People are still typing in stocks. Okay, now let's look at China bubble. You see nothing there. You see in the red? There are no search queries by the people on Google. Maybe you may see some Chinese people back in the East talking about it or typing it, but in terms of Google, no one, I repeat, no one's talking about it. Why do I keep on talking about China? Well, China's the second largest economy. Some people might say, hey, look what happened with Greece. Greece was on the verge of financial collapse in 2010, 2011. Yeah, but Greece is peanuts compared to China. Problems we've seen in Europe are peanuts. You have to remember they have 1.3 billion people. If you have, I don't know, subprime problems happen in China, just like we saw in the United States, red flag. And I wanted to show you another graph that I made. Alright, I wanted to look at now the Dow overlaid against the Fed funds rate in 2007, 2008, and I'm going to tie it back to China, what's going on there right now. Okay, remember the Dow was close to 14,000-ish in 2007. This is just an average of the Dow amounts at that time. So just keep that in mind. So we know that the Dow hit 14,000 in October-ish, 14,100. And then approximately 13 months later, 11/1/2008, Dow was roughly around 8,600. And we know that it went to roughly 6,500 in March of 2009. Now let's look at the blue. Blue Fed funds rate close to 5.25 in 2007. And where did it go in 2008? Near Thanksgiving-ish, like near 0%. And the rates started to go down as the Fed started to increase the money supply in order to make the Fed funds rate go down. Or what they did was they just had open market operations to let the Fed funds rate go down. And they did. And they dramatically increased the money supply. Now, what am I trying to say now? Okay, China, their base rate, we could look at this one site. Now, once again, China, they're having subprime problems, as I mentioned. When the U.S. had subprime problems, Fed funds rate went from 5.25 all the way to 0. Now, let's look at where the PBOC, or yeah, the PBC has their Chinese central bank's interest rate. Where's it at? It's 6% as of right now. It's been steady for the past, I don't know, few years based on this graph. And in my opinion, if subprime starts to get a lot worse in China, credit markets starting to tighten up even more, even though they're behind the scenes trying to intervene in these interbanking lending markets to try to alleviate the problems, to make the credit markets better. They're doing that, but the banks aren't lending. That's the problem. And I expect more problems to occur because you cannot fix the solvency problem without recapitalizing the banks. And they're just trying to paper it over. So that's the number one problem that I see happening. But put that aside. So you see the rates at 6% here. In my opinion, their target interest rate is going to go down as subprime continues to get worse. So in my opinion, I see a parallel to what happened in 2007, 2008, but it's going to take a little longer than what it did in 2007, 2008 because central banks weren't as aggressive as they are right now. And you have to remember, China is a huge player. And another thing I want to point out, I am shocked that the mainstream media is not picking this up. There's some alternative sites talking about it. Zero Hedge talking about this to a certain degree. But anyone on YouTube that we follow, no one's talking about China. And I'm probably going to continue to talk about it if no one talks about it. Because this, in my opinion, is going to be the big shoe to drop. And then margin debt as well is a huge problem. So it seems that, yeah, we're going to have asset bubbles pop 2015, 2016 like they have every 8 years since the year 2000. But hopefully we don't see that. But the way that the system's set up and basic math tells us that something is going to crack. My gut feeling is, yeah, we're going to have multiple asset bubbles, but the hardest hit is going to be with the folks out east in China. Alright guys, thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.